Good afternoon, participants. We will start in another couple of minutes. We are waiting for more participants to join us. Please bear with us. So, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to day 3 of the FTP. So, yesterday we had a session with Professor Malayadri, who spoke about the various aspects of getting published. He enriched our repertoire of knowledge based for publications and what are the various resources which researchers, academicians, those who wish to write can use, such as endnotes, site score, and such so many other details like ORCID, Scopus, Researcher ID, such details which many of them which were unknown to us, and sir enriched our knowledge with all that information. Today we have among us Dr. Kanikapati Srinivasa Rao. I request Professor Arti Kaul Kachru, the Dean, School of Education, Sharda University, to formally welcome sir to the platform for the FDP session today. Ma'am, over to you.
Please unmute me. Thank you, Disha. Um, Again, a hearty welcome to all the participants who have been who have been with us in the third day of this FDP. So yesterday I could not be with you, but like the feedback which I have received, that yesterday's session was quite fruitful. It was a fruitful engagement with all the participants. In absentia, I would like to thank the resource person, Professor Malyadi, who with my sincerest of apologies also that I could not be in the session. And I welcome today's speaker, Dr. Kanikapati Srinivasan, who is with us, who would be, I think, who would be deliberating on with us on questionnaire, different styles of writing a questionnaire, and other things also. Sir, before proceeding, I take this opportunity to welcome you formally on the behalf of Sharda University. Sharda University, I will just like to introduce to you. It is a prestigious university in the northern part of India, and it's a truly multidisciplinary university. We have different disciplines that are being different courses from different disciplines that are being run here. But what makes us truly multidisciplinary is that we have a faculty of um, medicine, nursing, and allied sciences. So normally these three domains or three disciplines are not prevalent in many of the universities. So that makes us truly interdisciplinary. We have a huge medical faculty with a 500 bedded hospital, which was like in during COVID times, it took the brunt of at least this population of the area in terms of their treatment and treatment and care. This school of education is a 5-year-old school of education. We are offering B.Ed program. We are offering integrated BA B.Ed program, BA B.Ed, BSc B.Ed program, MA education program, and PhD in education. So we have all undergraduate, postgraduate, and research scholars who take their education from this place. And what this school of education is has created a place for itself in the region of NCR, because our students, in terms of their progression in higher education and placement, they have they have been doing pretty well, given the fact that we are a new institute, given the fact that we are only 3 to 4 years old in this university, but our students are doing extremely well in their placement and higher education. Our PhD students are also doing very well in terms of their taking up research projects and research projects. And also the faculty is taking an initiative to design courses, to carry research, like they are fully committed to research and training, and it includes the PhD research as well as the research, independent research in terms of small projects. And this initiative by the faculty is proving results. We have been doing multidisciplinary projects, wherein, as the new educational policy has stated, that now education cannot stand all alone. It has to be truly multidisciplinary, and we are working in that direction also. This was a brief introduction from my school. I again welcome you to this FDP, and I'm sure that the students and the participants, research scholar, the faculty will have very good session in terms of their learnings. And I'm looking forward to this session. And over to you, sir, for your deliberations.
Thank you, Madam Dean Faculty. Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity. And I would like to thank the esteemed University Pro Chancellor, Honorable P.K. Gupta ji, and Pro Vice Chancellor, Sri Professor Y.K. Gupta ji, and Executive Director, Prashant Gupta ji, and convener of this program, Professor Aarti ji and Professor Akanksha Sharma ji, Akanksha Sharma Srivastav ji, and Dean Faculty, Madam Dean Faculty, and the previous my speakers to the yesterday and day before yesterday, Professor Venugopal ji, Professor Malyadri ji, and tomorrow another important speaker, Kumareshan ji, Professor Kumareshan ji, and day after tomorrow also again Atish Prashar sir also there. So I really thank for giving me the opportunity for this Sharda University to deliver a lecture on the questionnaire framework of questionnaire framework.
Dr. Rao, if
Yeah.
you allow me, I would just interrupt you for a second.
Yeah,
Please
yeah.
allow me to introduce you
Yeah,
formally
please,
to
please,
our
please, please.
participants.
Thank you.
I'm
Okay,
really
okay.
sorry to
Please,
interrupt
please,
you,
please, please. Go
but
ahead.
it's a great pleasure for us. It's a moment of pride for us to have such an academician with such illustrious achievements among us. Dr. Kanikapati Srinivas Rao is currently working as an associate professor at Osmania University, Hyderabad. He obtained his PhD from H.N.B. Garhwal Central University, Srinagar, from the Department of Commerce in the year 2008. Sir has got 25 years of shining, outstanding teaching and research experience at various levels and has published more than 70 research papers in various national and international journals of repute. So that only tells us that what kind of an enriching session it's going to be from someone who has published more than 70 research articles. He's also presented more than 45 research papers in several international and national conferences. Sir has guided many research scholars to finish their PhDs and has authored 4 textbooks. He is an adjudicator and external examiner for various universities of repute and has also submitted various research projects to UGC. He was awarded with the Best Teacher Awards. In fact, he's received 4 Best Teacher Awards for his excellence in academic record, which includes Telangana Government Best Teacher Awardee of 2016. Dr. Rao is also a trained program officer for Government of India for National Service Scheme and has conducted many programs in the slum areas. He's also a member on the editorial boards of more than 25 national and international journals. And he's also a member of various professional bodies, including a resource person for various universities like IGNOU, Ambedkar Open University, Annamalai University for Management Studies. Recently, during the pandemic and lockdown situations, he gave several webinars and worked as a resource person in various areas, including skill development, mentoring, counseling, online education, and so on. Dr. Rao is also Inspecting Authority, Ministry of Minority Affairs, Government of India from last 2 years and is inspecting vocational institutions under skill development. So it is truly an honor to have you among us, and we look forward to this session on questionnaire. We would also want to learn from your expertise about questionnaires as not only a tool for data collection, but questionnaire as a method for research that can be implemented in both qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method approaches. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, madam. Thanks a lot for your kind words. Uh, as I mentioned, I really thankful to the Sharda University for giving me this opportunity. Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, and Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, Chancellors, and all other organizing committee members, and the conveners, and Professor Akanksha Sharma ji, Srivastav ji, Dean Faculty, Madam Dean Faculty, and all other eminent people in the university board. And I really thankful for giving me this opportunity. Now, when you come to the today's, the session is on, the questionnaire framework, an origin of solution for a scientific, an origin of solution for a problem. So when you come to the a questionnaire, whenever you talk about the questionnaire, you should talk about, first of all, you should understand the problem. The problem is the root cause. Problem is the root cause for the questionnaire. For any questionnaire, when there is a problem, there are numerous problems in the society today that we are experiencing. The problems will come and go, but the solution is very important. When you apply the solution, when you practice when you implement the solution for a particular problem, then then the problem will be will be closed, and the people will be happy with that, with the solution. So, but here the point is the solution we have to find out, and we have to give an appropriate solution for the problems. What problems may not be consistent, it will go on in social sciences and other, the other, of course, pure sciences. The experiments will be different, and the basic principle it depends upon. But whereas when you take about the social problems and the societal problems and all that, the problems are numerous problems are there. So when there is so that is why the questionnaire, the problem is the root cause for the questionnaire. So today we are talking about the questionnaire framework for a which gives a scientific solution for a problem. So keeping in view that point, the investigation, the solution has to be given. So the solution has to be given to a problem means the problem, first of all, should be identified, the investigator or the researcher. So whatever problem he has to take up for investigation, he should understand properly about the problem, and he has to study about it. And then finally, after going into the grassroots level and collecting the opinions from various people, from various respondents or beneficiaries or the people, once he collects the information, then only the correct solution can be offered to close that problem, to end that problem. So that is why the investigator or the researcher role is very important when he takes up the research activity, the activity of a particular problem. He should be very careful in giving the solutions and all that. So there is a scientific solution must be there. It's not that just you give a solution that orally and without a scientific substantiation and proof and all that, without proof and all that, if you give, that will not work out. So a scientific solution must be there. When there is a scientific solution that can work out and that can only can clear the problems and all that. So keeping in view this point, there are many points are there. I will discuss when I display the slides and all that. So it is only a gist before we are going into the slides. So there's a lot of information is there. I would like to discuss. I would like to inform. I would like to display before you, and we'll discuss about all those things, the framework of questionnaire and all that, and what are the elements, contents, importance, the characteristics, good questionnaire elements, all those things I will discuss in that once we share the screen, and through the slides you can understand in a better way. So just bear with me. I will share the screen so that you can understand all the information with regard to questionnaire clearly. 1 second. Is it clear? Is
Yes,
it
sir.
clear, madam?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Yeah, am I audible? Any
Yes, sir.
problem?
No problem, sir.
Okay,
Please.
sure. Thank you. Now, the today's topic what I told you is a questionnaire framework, an origin of scientific solution for a problem. So keeping it with the presentation layout today that I'd like to present before you, these are the things that I would like to present with regard to questionnaire, pertaining to questionnaire. What is questionnaire? Schedule, questionnaire versus schedule, importance of questionnaire, operational concepts in questionnaire, variables in questionnaire framework, sources to search for questionnaire, parameters, variables, right? And then guidelines in preparation of questionnaire, characteristics of questionnaire, factors affecting questionnaire and elements of questionnaire, good questionnaire, and it's a framework how to do it and all that. Preliminary information to construct a questionnaire, questions and questionnaire, and the questionnaire design. What are the considerations to be taken into consideration when you are designing a questionnaire, and then developing a questionnaire, types and construction, different types of questionnaires and its construction and all that. And you have finally the sequence, logical arrangements and review with the questionnaire, and finally administering a questionnaire. And if any mistakes commonly generally will be made in the questionnaire, that also will be discussed. And finally we'll stop at the methods of sampling, because after methods of sampling the analysis part will take place. So that is why I stopped the presentation. The questionnaire part will be generally ended up to the method sampling and sampling techniques, sampling methods. Then the analysis part and all that will take place. That will be taken by the tomorrow's eminent speaker. Now these are the points, these are the things, these are the components that I would like to complete in my share with you all. Now, what is a questionnaire? A basic structure, basic information should be given to the researchers or PhD scholars are there. I hope in this many PhD scholars are there, investigators on different, many faculty members already completed PhDs, and many faculty people might have completed by this time many studies and projects, and also might have completed and submitted to various funding agencies. So now the basic information about the questionnaire is that first we have to understand that what is the questionnaire is, this information, the definition. First it is introduced, given by Sir Francis Galton, British anthropologist, in the late 1800s. So he was the instrument. He was the father of the invention of the questionnaire. And the questionnaire is, all of you, a set of, the printed written questions will be there in the format, with a choice of, different answers devised for the purpose of, the surveys or statistical studies. So a questionnaire will be formed a set of questions will be there in the format of questionnaire, with different choices. Choices will be given for each and every question in the questionnaire, so that the respondents can easily pick one of the choice which is closest to them, to their opinion and all that. So that is why it is a set of questions, and under that each question we have different, the choices will be provided. We talk about the scaling and all that in the coming slides. And you have the questionnaire is an instrument, as I told you just now. It consists of a set of, the questions, collection of data. This questionnaire, as I mentioned in the beginning before the slides, questionnaire, the problem is the root cause for the questionnaire. If there is no problem, there is no need of preparing or framing the questionnaire. Questionnaire doesn't arise when there is no problem. So when there is a problem, when you are interested to find out the solution of a particular problem, then the questionnaire arises. Otherwise, there's no need of the questionnaire and all that. So that is why for collection of data, the questionnaire has to be designed. The questionnaire has to be designed, and that questionnaire must be relevant to the problem. That is very important. That all we'll discuss in the coming slides and all that. Now, pertaining to the demographic character, there is many components you need to take into consideration while you are framing or designing, construction the questionnaire. You need to take so many parameters, variables, and all that. That we'll discuss in the coming slides. Demographic characteristics, for that matter, and you have the race, age, socioeconomic status, and also individual preferences, attitudes, feelings, experiences. All these things are very important and required before you frame the questionnaire and all that. It's not, the questionnaire is not vaguely, you are not supposed to, the investigator should not prepare the questionnaire as if according to his interest and all that. So grassroots level information should be gathered, and accordingly it has to be designed on the basis of problem only. It should be related to the problem. Problems are many, numerous problems will be there, as I mentioned. So each problem has got its own, the questionnaire and its development will be there. So that we'll see. Now, questionnaire with standard questions eliciting information. The questionnaire is meant for getting information, obtaining information from the respondents, or if it is a scheme implemented, then we'll call the people as beneficiaries are the people, targeted people. We call them as from targeted people. The information has to be collected. So these are all, with the standard of questions will be there, and the standard of questions will be administered, and getting the information, for collecting the data from the beneficiaries or from the respondents or from the people, targeted people. That is the main intention of the questionnaire, what it exists, and it includes, it consists. And you have, as I mentioned, beliefs, opinions, feelings, experiences. These are all the things will be taken into consideration when you are framing the questionnaire and all that. That in detail we'll see in the coming slides. And you have, in continuation to that, is a powerful evaluation. Questionnaire is a powerful evaluation to design, to generate analysis by using the statistical. Once you obtain the data, then the data has to be processed. It's a raw data. When you obtain the data from the different groups of the people, from the respondents or beneficiaries or the targeted people, that need to process it. Without processing, you cannot give a scientific solution to the problem. So here the point is, you have to, as an investigator, as a researcher, you need to give, the responsibility is, you need to give a solution to the problem which is concerned. So that is very important. Keeping in view that mind, the statistical analysis, appropriate tools also should be used. So every data has got every data. You cannot use the statistical tools, all the tools as you like. You cannot apply the tool for analyzing the data. So on the basis of data characteristics, the data characteristics only, the tool has to be decided and it has to be applied for analyzing purpose. That all we'll see in the coming slides. And the questionnaire should be clear and concise presentation, wording and all that. This is very important. If you prepare a lengthy questionnaire and the people doesn't want to go into the details of all the questions, because they don't find the time. So it should be concise, brief. Questionnaire must be brief, and what do you want to obtain the information or data from the respondent. That is very important. For that purpose, for that information only, you have to keeping in view that information, and you have to get the you have to prepare the questionnaire on the basis of that. Then you have to obtain the information from them. So that is why questionnaire should be clear and should be concise. There should not be any ambiguity. Ambiguity must not be there. These are all the inputs of the questionnaire that one should ensure in the questionnaire. And you have, it may be structured and answered. There are different types of the questionnaires. Structured one, unstructured one. What is structured, what is unstructured, we'll see in detail in the coming this thing. Structured means a specific set of questions will be prepared in the predetermined or planned questions will be prepared. Unstructured means there will no questions, just like that the investor will reach the respondents or the people, and he will try to pose the questions on the spot, and he will get the information. So these are all about the structured and unstructured, that we'll discuss in detail in the coming slides. Now, simple and easy to understand the usage of language that you are using in the questionnaire while framing the questionnaire. It is very important. If you use the big vocabulary, which is complicated vocabulary, the people cannot understand. That is why the researcher and the investigator should keep in mind who are the targeted people. On the basis, you have to keep in the mind about their the social status, their educational abilities and all that should be taken into consideration, and on the basis of that the wording has to be used. It's not that a big vocabulary which cannot be understandable. A common man, you are reaching to the common man, to whom you are reaching, from whom you want to get the information. So that must be kept in mind, and accordingly you have to use the wording and all that. That is one important aspect. And you have the simple, easy understand language, and avoid confusion. Clarity should be prevailed always in the questionnaire. It should be brief, and the questionnaire must be, a clarity must be there. People can easily understand once they go through it. If I prepare a big questionnaire, the people doesn't find time to go through all those things. So clarity must be there, and simple. The questionnaire must be brief and concise, must be there, so that a maximum of 20 questions, 20 to 25 questions will be enough as a standard questionnaire. More than in those 20 25 questions only, you supposed to incorporate the data what you want to extract from them. On the basis of that, you design the questions. That is very important. And avoid unclear words also. Ambiguity and without clarity, the word should not be used in the questionnaire framing. And you have the questionnaire versus schedule. People generally doesn't know about there is a schedule and a questionnaire. Both are there, but the difference between these two is a questionnaire is will be framed. A set of questions will be framed, and that will be sent to the respondents, to the beneficiaries, by post, by mail, or and collect the data from them through mail or post, or through courier. They post it, and from the beneficiaries that information will get by mail, by post, or by courier, any sort of the things that you can take up, and you can send the questions, and you can get the information from you can collect the data from that. That is what we call questionnaire. And the schedule means, under schedule,
या दोनों डाल दो 10th नहीं डिप्लोमा नहीं
beneficiary respondent directly.
ये 10th डिप्लोमा तो डालना पड़ेगा ना सर्टिफिकेट बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट के लिए.
Where under questionnaire, the investigator or researcher will not meet directly. Personally, he will not meet. That is the difference. The set of questions will be same in the questionnaire and even the schedule. The questions may be same. But in the questionnaire, the difference is, here in the questionnaire, the investigator will not directly meet the respondent or beneficiary, whereas the questionnaire schedule, under schedule method, the investigator, the researcher will approach the beneficiary directly. In person, he will approach him and get the information from him. That is only the difference between the questionnaire and the schedule. Primarily, that one should understand. And you have that is one important thing. Then the next, you have importance of questionnaire. What is the importance of questionnaire when you talk about to know the characteristics of the data? That's what I mentioned. When you collect the data, it's a raw data. You don't know about what are the inputs, what are the characteristics of the data, unless you analyze it. So you need to analyze the data, then only we'll come to know the characteristics of the data. And you have to know the opinions of why should we analyze the data, means to know the opinions, attitudes, beliefs, natures, habits of the people. All these things we should know it. On the basis of that, the scientific solution and decision making will be done for a problem. So that is why opinions, attitudes, beliefs, nature, and habits, and all these things, to know about all those things, we should analyze the data. The raw data, when we collect, it should be analyzed in such a fashion that then only we can come to know various inputs related, or various aspects which are related to the respondents or beneficiaries, or to the targeted, or from the, or with the targeted people, and to make policy decisions. So that's what, when you analyze the data, then only a clear idea you will get. As a researcher, investigator, you will get a clear idea, and the policy making also can be done on the basis of that. So without knowing the characteristics of the data, we cannot prepare the decisions. We cannot make the decision making. We cannot implement anything. So that is why in data analysis, obtaining the data, collecting data is one area, and analyzing it, and after analyzing, inferences and what the decisions, on the basis of that, the decisions are to be made. So that is why decision making depends upon the collection of data. So if you collect your data, if it is correct, correct one, and the decision making will also be correct. If data is not correct, the false data if you collected, and by sitting in room in a home, if you just cook the data, and you cannot give a appropriate solution or scientific solution to a problem. So that is one important area. To achieve growth and development, how a real decision, a real solution must be given. When real solution is given, then the beneficiaries will get a benefit. Beneficiaries will get benefit. Who are the beneficiaries? What is their problem? Or who are the targeted people? What are their problems? Then only you can give a correct solution for their problem. So that what happens, the growth and development among the such groups will come. Otherwise, it is not proper. So that is why data collection, when you talk about, you have questionnaire method, schedule. Questionnaire is quantitative and qualitative methods are there. Quantitative methods means simple to understand. There is a numeric based information. That means a planned questions will be prepared and will be circulated to the people and will get the information which is associated with the numbers. So, and qualitative means, and qualitative you have a descriptive through observations, interviews, so case study method, you will collect the information and that also will be analyzed. But the difference between these two is it is numbers and it is descriptive. Which is number? Quantitative is a number based, and the qualitative is a descriptive based. Say writing something descriptively for a question, writing a big paragraph of their opinion. So open-ended question, closed-ended, all will be there. In the coming slides, we'll discuss about all those things. Next, we have operational concepts in a questionnaire. This is most important. Operational concepts, before you go for framing the questionnaire, first of all, the problem should be identified, as I mentioned. Once you identify the problem, then what are the variables associated with the problem that you have to identify. Variable identification is very important. Parameters are very important. What are the parameters associated with that problem is very important. These things, first of all, you have to work on that as a researcher, as an investigator. You need to work on it. You have to understand the definitions of the concepts. You have to understand the definitions of the variables that we have chosen for collecting data. That on the basis of variables only the questionnaire will be framed. On the basis of parameters only the questionnaire has to be framed. So that is why the questionnaire should be related to the problem. So what is the problem that you have to identify first, number one. Number two, the variables and parameters also should be identified for the problem that you are going to collect the data. So once these things are identified, variables and the parameters or variables or the other the information, once the problem, once you identify, one understand. How do you understand? Review of literature. Basically, you need to go the review of literature. Volume of review of literature must be the investigator has to go through. And as far as questionnaire is concerned, once you identify the variables and the parameters, whatever you have identified, for those variables and the parameters, that you have to go into the concepts. What are the basic concepts was telling about those variables and parameters? That is very important. Unless you have proper idea about the variables and parameters, you cannot frame the questionnaire, and the questions cannot be framed, and you cannot keep it in a format of questionnaire. That is very important. So that is why concepts, knowing concepts are very important about the information of the particular variables and parameters. When you choose, you should have a proper idea about it. That is why you have to go through abundant literature review and all that you supposed to go through, and then you will have plenty of idea about it, and you can easily prepare the frame the questions on different aspects. That is one thing. And you have the select definition of for variables, the definitions of variable that you have chosen. That's what I told you. Definitions of variables, you have to check it, and you have to understand. First of all, the investigator researcher should understand in his mind that what is a particular variable that you have chosen, what are the nature of that variable, what are the nature of the parameter that you have chosen to frame the questions and all that. First, investigator researcher should have the idea, knowledge. Otherwise, it is difficult. Measurement of variables to be known are measurable factors. What are the measurable factors that you have to understand, and accordingly that has to be collected and has to be framed. And type of the study, when you unidimensional studies are also very different types of studies will be there. A PhD program maybe, or otherwise some funded agencies also there, UGC, ICSR, and so many ministries also funding for research projects and all that. So you need to take what is whether it is unidimensional or multidimensional measurement is required for your study. That has to be decided in the researcher or investigator has to decide. And on the basis of that, review literature finding out of variables and all that has to be checked. And you have the variables in questionnaire framework you need to take. It is important to know the key variables, independent and dependent variables. Here, very important, two types of variables the researcher and investigator must be understand. What is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable? The dependent variable is the cause of the independent variable. Means, for example, I will tell you a small example so that you can understand better. For example, here I have given you government schemes and impact. government, central government and respective state governments will implement so many schemes and all that. You take a particular scheme, if it is implemented, and for the last 1 year, and you want to know as a researcher, investigator, you want to know the impact of the implementation of that particular scheme. So then what happens here, the scheme is independent and the impact is dependent. Because of the scheme, the impact has come. So that is why impact is dependent and scheme is independent. So like that, and you can take many examples like that. For example, smoking and the cancer, say for example, because of the smoking is independent variable and cancer is dependent variable, right? And because of the smoking, the individual has got the cancer. If there is no smoking habit, there is no question of the ailment of that cancer and all that will not be there, will not take place, will not arise. So that is one thing. So these are all the variables, because independent variable, dependent variable relationship is very important. On the basis of the relationship between independent and dependent variable only, if you understand clearly for your research, for your problem, then only you can frame the question. That is my opinion, what I would like to submit before you. So the researcher, investigator should understand what is dependent variable, what is independent variable. Once it is identified, because on the basis of that only you need to frame the questions. That is what I would like to submit before you. And you have the structure of variable describe the sample study. Say for example, education, like that. The other examples also, education, age, gender, profession. These are all a structure of variables will be there. So these are all parameters. What parameters are required for your study, that you need to understand first. You have to select the parameters, and you have to use them, and so that you can analyze the data effectively. And the parameters that's what I told you. You need to take into consideration the relevant of the parameter for your study. It's not that some which is not relevant, the parameter is the unrelated parameter should not be taken. So when you are taking a parameter variable, it should be related to your problem. That is one important. So here the parameters, education, age, gender, profession, these are all the things that if it is required that you have to take. These all will come under the demographic characteristics of the data and all that we can take it, and we can describe it through analyzation of data and all that. And you have the construct effective questionnaire. So if you want to construct an effective questionnaire, all these things you are supposed to take into consideration about all the parameters and variables and all that. Researchers should go through the concept of the dependent, independent. That's what I mentioned. Independent variables, dependent variables. You should have the researcher have a clear idea about it. And for that, literature review has to be thoroughly has to go through the researcher and investigator. Then only he will get a relationship between the two variables, and what is the meaning of the variable, and what is the definitions of the variable, what are the definitions of parameters that you are taken. All these things, unless you go through thoroughly, you cannot understand it. If you don't understand, the problem is you cannot frame the question. That is only my submission to place before you. And here the sources to search for questionnaire. So for to understand the concepts and the definition, there are certain information here. You can check it also. Mendeley is there, and the Google Scholar is there. Through these things, you can search once you identify the variables and the parameters, then you can check the definitions of those variables and the parameters. You can check the definition, because as I mentioned, the thorough knowledge must be there to the investigator on these variables and parameters. Then only he can frame the question. For that purpose, the sources are, you can see the Mendeley, Google Scholar, Likert scale. What is the scaling that you have to maintain for your questions? Scale handbooks also available. These things the researcher, investigator can go through it, can understand different types of the concepts, and there are different types of variables, different types of parameters will be there. You have to pick what are the parameters and variables that are related to your problem, and can give a thorough read on them, and then so that you can easily cope up with that. And you have the guidelines in preparation of a questionnaire. What are certain guidelines are there as per the objectives of the study. Objectives of the study means, in the sense, objectives are very important. The another important point I'd like to tell you is, to prepare a questionnaire, objectives are the main important inputs to the investigator on the basis of objectives only questionnaire has to be designed. Because the object, ultimately the researcher and investigator has to accomplish the objectives at the end of the study, at the end of the, while submitting his study or submitting his report and submitting his thesis. The objectives, so whatever objectives framed, on the basis of objectives you need to on the basis of objectives you need to design the questionnaire and all that. The objectives, how you have to design the objectives means, again you have to go through the abundant review of literature and find the gaps of the review of literature, and those gaps you have to take and frame the research questions and all that on the basis of research questions, on the basis of gaps of the review of literature. Then taking these two into consideration, you have to frame the objectives. So objectives, when you are framing the objectives, the variables parameters also keep in mind, and on the basis of that you have to you have to frame the objectives. Then finally, in every during the conducting study also, you have to check every time whether you are going according to the objectives or whether any deviations are taking place. That also an investigator, a researcher should take into consideration. Very important. Often you have to check as an investigator whether any deviations are taking place in the study, or whether you are going according to the objectives accomplishment or not. That you have to take into consideration. So the point is here, the variables are variables according to the objectives. Whatever you have mentioned, whatever you have designed the objectives, on the basis of objectives, you need to frame the, you need to choose the variables and parameters, so that what happens, everything will go smoothly. That is one thing. And brief accuracy expressions also can be maintained. Once you frame the, once you take into consideration about the variables and the question, variables and parameters on the basis of objectives, then you accuracy briefly, you can whatever you want to find out, investigate, that can be briefly, accurately, you can maintain that flow, and then you can get the information accordingly, obtain information from the targeted people. Include expert opinions. So sometimes, the many people, if you take one particular aspect, one particular problem, you may be new for that problem, but already earlier some people might have done some work, say for example. Then you need to consult them, experts. They are experts. Many experts will be there. There is no wrong at all, and you are supposed to meet them, and you have to take their opinions and consultation while preparing the questions and questionnaire, framing the questionnaire, and whether what are the questions are related to it, what are the variables that you have chosen, what are the parameters that you have chosen, and whether those parameters and variables are suited to your problem or not. You have to discuss all these things with the experts. Experts in the sense those who have done a lot of work on those areas. You can meet them, and as an investigator, as a researcher, meet them and get the information from them, so that what happens, the questionnaire will become excellent. And the questionnaire, the framing of questionnaire will become effective potential questionnaire. You can get it, so that is very important for obtaining the data from the beneficiaries or respondents, and it is accurate data. Then that is what exactly required. That leads the investigator to give a specific a correct solution or decision making to the authorities, or you can offer a decision making, or you can the policymakers can give a correct policy making. They can do it because of that. So that all these things has to be understood by the investigator and researcher. Understand levels of respondents. That's what I told you. The level of respondent, the perception of the respondent, who are the targeted people, that you have to take into consideration. Accordingly, you have to pose the questions. If you without the ambiguity or big vocabulary which is not understandable vocabulary, if you use in the questionnaire wording as like that, the people will not understand it, and they will not show interest also. They will not be motivated. Motivation questionnaire, when you take the questionnaire to the when you ask the questions, the interviewee has to be show interest to give answers. So in such a fashion, you need to prepare the questionnaire. That's very important. Any ambiguity, confusions are there, they will simply say that no. For every question, the answer will be no, like that, because they are not having the complete picture in their mind. Whatever questions you are asking, for all those questions, they're creating some, the confusion to the respondent. That is why they say no for everything. No, even they know about the answer, they will not say the answer. They simply say that no, I don't know, like that they say. If it is happened like that, what happens? Your questionnaire error will be arise. So a lot of error will take place. If any question is not answered, means error will take place. Error, the origin of error comes from the unanswering questions and all that. That is all we'll discuss in a few minutes back, after a few minutes. Avoid open-ended questions. Open-ended means there are two types of open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Open-ended means it is not structured, it's not planned, and you will you will give freedom to the respondent for giving their answers and all that for particular problem. And so that what happens, if you give freedom to the respondents or beneficiaries, they will come out with their own experiences and all that. If you frame the questions and take to the respondents, so they are stick to the questions what you have posed, what you are going to pose to them, those questions only they will keep in mind, they will give the answers. But other than that, if you can give freedom to the beneficiary or respondent, to the targeted people, to tell about their opinions and experiences and beliefs, their experiences and feelings, if you give a chance to them, that they can tell many things. So that is why the open-ended means it is freedom to the respondents or the beneficiaries to answer, or otherwise the closed-ended means I will discuss all those in detail also. Closed-ended means the investigator will prepare a set of questions, and the answer, the alternatives also will be prepared, and the respondent, when you approach the respondent, he has to pick one of the alternative what you have mentioned in the questionnaire, and he has to give it. But sometimes what happens, these alternatives may be relevant to them or may not be relevant. That also will be there. So in that case, what happens, open-ended questions will be more suitable than the closed-ended questions. That in detail we'll discuss again. Avoid confusions. Controversial questions should not be asked, should not be mentioned. Controversial, sensitive issues should not be touched, because sensitive issues which you are not supposed to ask the respondents, and they will not answer us. So that is why while framing the questionnaire, confusion should not be there, and controversial questions should not be there. Sensitivity has to be taken into consideration. Accordingly, you have to frame the question. Introduction, aim, and the questionnaire. What is the aim of the questionnaire, that you are going approaching the beneficiary to get information or to obtain the data? What is the aim? That you should keep in mind all the time, and accordingly you approach the beneficiary and you can get the information accordingly. If you ask the question, they will come forward interestingly, motivating. They themselves will motivate. The how you are approaching the respondent is very important. So if you approach, your approach is very important. Your approach will motivate the respondent. Your approach will motivate the targeted people to give answers. So approach courtesy is very important. You need to show a courtesy to the people. You are not supposed to think you are going as an investigator. So you have to give proper courtesy to them and proper respect to them. Then they will come forward. That is motivation. So immediately they can spend time. So your approach, investigator approach, researcher approach is very important when obtaining data from the beneficiaries or targeted people or the beneficiaries. That is very important. And again, you have the characteristic when you see facilities easy calculation, facilitates easy questionnaire and all that, data analysis, all these things. Once questionnaire is there, obtained the data, raw data, that can be useful. The questionnaire, once you collect the data, that will be incorporated in the MS Excel, and that MS Excel, by using some relevant statistical tools, the analysis part will take place, and that will be helpful. So questionnaire is the main important tool for analyzing the data. So that is why statistics and all that, the analyzation and all that will take place, but the root cause for analysis is the questionnaire only. That is what I'd like to submit before you. And then deals with the significant topic. The topic that you have chosen is also very important. Collects information which cannot be acquired from books. Sometimes, for example, I mentioned just now, some information which cannot be acquired from the books or the secondary information, usually we collect from the books and journals and all that. But some information which is not available, primary information which is not available with the books and all that, you need to go to the researcher. You need to collect the information about the first-hand information from the beneficiaries only. So you can collect from the books and journals only secondary information. Already the information which is existed related to that topic, you can obtain the information as a secondary source from books and journals and all that. That is one thing. And attractive, that's what I told you, it should be attractive, clear, concise, brief, and courtesy. All these things must be there in the questionnaire. It should appear on the questionnaire so that the people will be motivated, will give the answers. Directions are clear and complete. Whatever directions, whatever questions that you are posing them, so that should be clear and concise. All these things should be maintained, should be taken into consideration. It should be objective oriented, without clues, suggestions. Clues very important. You are not, when you frame a question, under the question, you are an investigator. You should not give the suggestion. When you give the suggestion as an alternative under the question, then what is the need of approaching them? There's no need to approach them, because your question is you have given, and suggestion also, hints are given, say for example. Then one of them they will pick, and they will not apply their own mind. So their own mind application is very important for us. From their mind, whatever comes, that is very important for us to analyze, to solve the problem, to give decision, to give policy making, to prepare policy making for implementation. That is very important. That is why the suggestions, clues should not be there under any circumstances under the questions. So that is very important. Questions from simple to complex. First, you have to start with the simple and to complex. Simple in the sense, what is your name? How old are you? What is the profession? What is your occupation? Right? Income levels. Like this, you start with the simple questions, and then come to the problematic problem, whatever problem that you are that you want to collect information with regard to problem. Then you take the information about that problem and all that. So that is the style of asking questions and all that. It should be the simple and all that. Next, double barrel question should to be avoided. Double barrel in the sense, in one statement, two questions will be composed. It is wrong. So it is wrong. Why? Because the respondent, if you compose two questions in one statement, then what happens? The respondent will be in confusion. For what question, what answer he has to give. Say, for example, one question, the two questions are composed in one statement. Say, for example, for one question, first part of the question, he says that his idea is, say, for example, yes. And the second part of the question, say, for example, his idea is no. So if one part is yes, another part is no, means what type of answer he has to give? Where is the alternative? So that is why straight away, only one question has to be given. And for that, the alternative should be given, so that the respondent will be clear and he will give the answer. So double barrel question should not be posed, and with different alternatives or answers. So then it will be confusion. And what happens, when you give a double barrel question in one single statement, the respondent will never answer for anything. Even if some part of the first part of the question he knows the answer, but second part of the answer he is not agree. First part of the question, say for example, he is agree, and second part of the question he does not agree, say for example. So but alternatives are agree, disagree, and satisfied. All these things are there. Elements are the alternatives are there. So what type of answer? For one part his opinion is different, another part his opinion is different. So that is why you are not supposed to compose two different types of questions in one statement. That is very important. Next, you have the factors affecting the questionnaire and its size. That's what I already told you. The size of the questionnaire must be brief, and the questionnaire size means 20-25 questions maximum, because the respondents never show interest. If you take a lengthy questionnaire, say about 35-40 questions consisting of a questionnaire, if you take to the researcher, to the respondent, they will not show interest. For some questions, they will give answers. Once they come to the next level questions, they will not show interest. Some which is unrelated answers they will give, because they want to go out from you. So that is why they give unnecessary, they don't want to show their interest in all that. That is one thing. Next, reputation of the funding agency. So here factors, the questionnaire will be on the basis of, the funding agency. What funding agencies are also playing very important role for preparing affecting the preparation of the questionnaire on the basis of that. So different problems will be there. Funding agencies, PhD thesis is different. Funding agencies give will fund for different types of the problems and all that. So on the basis of that, the question has to be designed about their mind and all that. You have to take into consideration. Accordingly, you are supposed to prepare the questions and frame the questions in questionnaire format. And you have the difficulty of the questions posed. So the difficulty of the questions also, it should not be the difficult. It should be concise and easy. Relatively significant on the other aspects of standard of life of human being. This is very, very important. Significant questions, aspects that are to be standard of life of human being are to be taken into consideration, because their standard of living and their income levels, their perceptions, and their way of living style is very important. Based on that, you are supposed to frame that. And you have the another important point, relevance or quality of the questionnaire. Like relevance, and that's what I mentioned in the previous slides. Relevance is sorry, relevance is very important. So when you frame the question, any question, any type of question, the researcher, the investigator should always check. The investigator should always check whether whether it is related to his problem or not. This is the most important. Unrelated questions, if you frame in the questionnaire, then there is no use of it, and the analysis also will become wrong, and the decision making ultimately will be wrong. So that is why it should not be done like that. So you have to check the relevance from question to question, whether it is related to your problem. You have to completely, as a researcher, investigator, completely stick to your problem, and you have to check question by question whether it is related or relevant or not. And in the question, what are the variables that you are chosen to frame the questions, you have to check whether it is related or not. Objectives also. On the basis of objectives, I told you, the variables are to be framed, and has to be designed, the questions and all that. So that is why. Next, appropriate time in administering a questionnaire. What time you have to approach the respondents? Anytime if you go to respondents, some respondents will not be available. Beneficiary will not be available all the time. Some people will be available in the morning, some people will be available in the evening, some people in the afternoon. So you have to check the qualities, the timings of the beneficiaries or the targeted people. Accordingly, you have to approach them. It is your work, it's not their work. So they want to give, they will give only the data, information about the problem. So that is why you have to find out what time they will be available, in what time they will be available. Accordingly, you have to manage the show with them. Next, you have elements of questionnaire. Title of the questionnaire on the subject. Say, for example, these are already covered. Clear, precise, definition, domain, identifies the domain of the problem. Investigation oriented. It should be investigation oriented, investigative oriented, captivating attention and enthusiasm. So respondents' interest. You as a researcher, as an investigator, you need to motivate the beneficiary. Why should we motivate the beneficiary or the respondents or targets people? Because the opinion is, our motto is to get correct information from them. You want to get correct information. Otherwise, if you don't get correct information, if they are in some busy, or if they are they don't find time to wait for 15-20 minutes developing their questions, then you don't ask them. You ask their time, and then only you go, so that they will whenever they are free, they can give you the answers correctly. When they are in busy, they will. So that is one important aspect the investigator has to understand. And general information, description, purpose, confidentiality, honest, these all should be maintained. Confidentiality has to be maintained. Sometimes the questions, that's what I told you, sensitive questions should not be, better it is to be avoided. And whatever questions, the information, the data that you are collecting, it should be kept in confidential. Say some person has, that is why we do not on the questionnaire. We'll take the information from them, but we will not mention the beneficiary's name or respondent's name or targeted people name will not be mentioned. But questionnaire code will be given. For each and every questionnaire, code will be given. On the basis of that, we'll when your analyzing part is taking place, then we'll analyze it, and the data analysis and all that with the statistical tools, we'll analyze it, and we'll get the interpretations, and then finally the decisions can be taken place. Next, specific information, questionnaire parts, length of the questionnaire and all that we discussed. Quality.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, sorry to disturb you. You please unmute yourself. I have muted everybody else. So you are the host. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's fine now.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, from the beginning only I am unmuted.
No, sir. Actually, right now some participants were unmuting themselves. That's why I just muted everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Is it audible now?
Yes,
am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
From the last, I think 45 minutes, my.
Yes, sir, you are absolutely audible all the time. It is just.
Okay. Thank you. I thought that from the beginning, if the audience are in not able to listen my voice and all that, because
No,
of
it's very fine.
okay, doesn't matter. Now, shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Now you have the good questionnaire and its framework. When you come across this, it should address the significance of the research work. Always the research work, the title is very important. The base of title, keeping in mind, and you should always they prepare the objectives frame. You have to frame the objectives and the hypothesis and the variables, parameters. These are all very important components and elements in the questionnaire that has to be kept in mind by the researcher and investigator. Gather information directly from beneficiaries, not from the sources. So sources, if you get the information, it is called as secondary sources. When you empirical study, when you want to conduct, then you need to approach the collect the primary sources. From primary sources only get the information, and you can only give then the correct the decisions and correct solutions can be given to the problem. So that is one important aspect. It should concise and essential data only has to be collected, and it has to be processed. It should be attractive, systematic, arrangement, and clear. So these are all the things that we have called systematically. You have to arrange the questions. What questions you have to ask in the beginning, what questions you have to ask in the middle, and what questions you have to ask in the ending. All these things, a systematic way. That questions, that slide also there, I will explain that. And you have, it should not be suggestive character. I already told you, investigator, as an investigator, you are not supposed to suggest or give hints or clues to the beneficiary or to the researcher, to the respondents or to the target people, because they have to come up, they have to come with their idea, with their opinion. You have to collect that information. You are not supposed to give, as an investigator, not supposed to give hints or suggestions. So that is very important aspect that the investigator has to kept in mind, should be kept in mind. And next you have, it should be easy to segregate, tabulate, analyze, and interpret. So the questionnaire should enable the investigator easily to segregate the information, to process the information in respect of the tables and the graphs and other charts and all that. The questionnaire has to enable the researcher to segregate the data, analyzing the data easily. So that is why keeping in view that point, and you need to frame the questions, double-barreled questions, and some questions unable to answer the respondent. Such questions should not be incorporated in the questions. If it is incorporated, what I told you just now, mentioned in the a few minutes back, error, sampling error, and all that, those problems will be there. If sampling error is huge, then it will be difficult for the analysis and interpretation. Whatever analysis that you prepare, that you generate, and interpretation that you give, it will not be accurate. It will not come. So that is why we have to take care. We should be very careful about the framing of the questionnaire. There should not be very minimum errors will be there, but minimum error only you have to ensure. Otherwise, it will be difficult. That all depends upon the good questionnaire only, the framing of the questions and all that. And good questionnaires provide measures of theoretical concepts, also referred to as variable, that are common, reliable, and all that. So here the important point is good questionnaire, measurable. It should be measurable theoretically as well as numerically. It should be measurable. That is very important information. And you have the another important point, preliminary information to construct questions. When you are we have come to the construction of the questionnaire area. Now, when you think about the construction of the questionnaire, you have certain points. Preliminary information should be kept in mind as an investigator, as a researcher. Say, for example, sample population, those whom you are going to ask. What is the sample of what is the total population? What is the sample out of it you want to consult? You want to get the information from them. That you should clear as an investigator, as a researcher, as a PhD scholar. And you have the method of adoption, to whom asking questions. Who are the targeted people? That's what I told you. Who are the targeted people? Who are the beneficiaries, the respondents? Who are the target people? That you have to, should be kept in mind, and accordingly you have to frame the questions. Questions that you are going to ask the target people, that we discussed already. The result of application with information. So what type of result that you can expect with the information that you are going to obtain from the various people or targeted people? The time scale. Time scale means how long you want to obtain the information. Say, for example, if you take a huge amount of sample, it takes a lot of time. So huge amount of sample is very difficult. It will take years together to get the information from the sample. So how much sample that we have to select and all that, that depends upon the subject that you have chosen. That's very important. Check the definition of the problem. Definitions and all the concepts I told you already, variables, concepts, definitions, you have to understand clearly, parameters, concepts, definitions, understand clearly the investigator and all that. So next, opinions from the subjects of experts, that also I have mentioned, experts' opinions who have done extensive work on the particular subject. We need to take the information from them, and their guidance also, their suggestions also can be taken, so that effective questionnaire it can be framed. Formulation of hypothesis is to be tested. What is the hypothesis that you are framing? Out of the hypothesis also, as I mentioned, the research questions, the research gaps, research questions, and the objectives. On the basis of that, the hypothesis are to be framed. Hypothesis is nothing but an imagination, prediction of the investigator. So once you have certain ideas, certain imagination, certain prediction about the problem of the problem about the problem regarding a solution, you have certain prediction. So that can be wrong, that may be right, that may be wrong also. So that wrong or right, when can you know? If you test it, if you test the hypothesis with a statistical tool, then only you will come to know whether your prediction, imagination is correct or wrong. So that is why you have to frame the hypothesis also on the basis of variables. It's very, very important. So that is why variables, parameters are very important in framing the questionnaire. And while the analysis and all that are taking place, it is very important because analysis part will give you will enable the investigator to give suggestions and decisions. That is one thing. Formulation of hypothesis, this has to be tested once it is formulated hypothesis. Develop questions and list them questionnaire orderly. You have to order. You have to order what is the first, what are the beginning questions you should pose, what are the middle questions should be there, what are the last questions should be there. You have to, as an investigator, you have to frame it accordingly. Orderly, you have to frame it, and then it will be easy for you, and it will be attractive to the respondent's point of view. If you ask directly the impact question in the beginning, then nobody will, people doesn't know, they will be in ambiguity and all that. Why this man is asking like this, like that, they may think. So that is why if you approach them, a courtesy you have to show before them, and you have to ask them, how are you, what is your name? These are the questions. First you have to introduce yourself, and then you go one by one, you take them to the requirement of the questions that you requirement of the data. According to your requirement, you can ask the questions over a period of time. That is one thing. And the questionnaire is the benefit when you talk about cost effective, easy analysis. Easily we can analyze when you get the information like that. Questionnaire design, the construction of that, you have a questionnaire design. When you design the questionnaire, these are the important things that you have to keep in mind. What are those? Questionnaire design is a multi-stage process that requires attention to many details. Multi-stage process. So one by one, that's what I told you, the orderly has to be maintained, and multi-stage process. The process means orderly. The arrangement of the questionnaire should be in an orderly. What questions are to be placed according to the requirement of the information, and demographic, personal information, demographic information, and then the subject problem area oriented or problem associated questions. All those things you have to concentrate on that. Next, you have the questions asked earlier in survey may influence how people respond to later questions. See, in previous surveys, if such type of surveys, if previously if anybody is conducted, so how they have responded, is there any change from then to now? Say for example, some 4 years back, same on same issue, on the same problem, if it is conducted 5-10 years back, then what is the changes? What are the changes that have been taking place from from that year to this year? So like that, you have to observe it, and accordingly, because the changes will take place automatically when time is going on. Then definitely what happens, their development, growth, and all that will influence them. And on the basis of that, what happens, the answering methods also, answering way also will be different. So that is one. Select type of questions, wording to use, right? Specify the information needed. What is the information that is required, that you have to specifically you have to ask them, and you have to design accordingly. Specify the type of interview method, how you are going to, what are the ways and means that you are that you want to collect the information from them, right? And determine the content of the individual questions. What content, how you have to frame the question and all that. These are all has to be comes under the elements of design of the questionnaire. And you have the respondents' unwillingness, disability should not be there. So that is why these are all depends upon the unwillingness. When a respondent will show unwillingness because your questionnaire is making some ambiguity or some not motivating, it is not clear, say for example, then unwillingness will take place. He will say that no, nothing, I don't have time, you please come next after some time, tomorrow, like that he will tell. Tomorrow if you go again, he will say no, I am busy, like that. Because your questions are creating such type of the uneasiness to the respondent. That should not be there. So in such a manner you are supposed to design, so that creates the motivation to enable the respondent to give answers for your questions. That is very important. And you have the determine the question wording and all that we discussed. Arrange the questions in order, identify layout and all that we have seen. Now you have the considerations for a research questionnaire. What are the considerations? Code the questions. You have to, every question should be coded. Say for example, as I mentioned, some questions related to demographic, some questions related to impact, some questions related to perception. Say for example, all demographic questions should be coded in a for demographic in a demographic code must be given. And all impact questions, for all impact questions, impact code should be given. For all perceptions questions, you have to give perceptions code. Like that, if you code, what happens, it will become easy. The analysis part, the latter part will be easy for analyzing the questions and all that, the information and all that. So type of questions, example, demographic, that's what I told, impact, problems, etc. This type of coding can be has to be given, so that analysis part, latter part will become very, very easy for analysis and all that. Rephrase the questions to meet the requirements. If at all rephrasing, when you have to rephrase means, for example, your question is not related to the respondent information, then the respondent will no, not like this, you have to this is the problem, like that the respondents will tell sometimes to the investigator. So then investigator, what he has to do, he has to reframe the question. That is what we call pilot study. We'll discuss about it also in the next slides. So pilot study has to be conducted. Whatever questionnaire that you prepared, you are not supposed just like that, you should not implement it. You have to take to the draft questionnaire should be prepared, and that draft questionnaire should be taken for testing with by consulting the research, by consulting the respondents or the targeted people. Then when you are asking them the questions that you prepared in draft questionnaire, then any modifications, if you consult them, if you directly meet and ask them, then some different opinions will be given by the, for certain questions they give some different opinions. So you need to correct it, right? So that will be more effective for the, to the analysis part, and more effective for the research point of view. So the effective questionnaire, we're all trying to prepare an effective questionnaire. That is ultimately at the end of the day, that is our the requirement. For that requirement, we need to prepare the questionnaire very effective. How we have to prepare the questionnaire very effective is this pilot study is another important tool to prepare the effective questionnaire and all that. That we'll discuss in detail in the next slides. Next, we have at least 4 to 5 times items to construct. It must be the single dimensional scale, multi-dimensional scale. It is a detailed study. If it is a detailed study, single dimensional scale, multi-dimensional scale will be there. Multi-dimensional means, for example, for one question, there are 5 questions, 5 alternatives will be a 5 scale, 4 scale, 3 scale, 2 scale will be given. But the ideal optimum scale is, say, according to Likert, say, for example, 5 is the optimum. If you give more number of options, alternatives, that also not correct. 7, 8, 9 answers if you give for one question alternatives, that scale also not correct. So it should be ideal 5 to 7 must be there. It should be not more than 5. Always it will be ideal, and the people can easily, immediately, without wasting them, without taking much time, they give you the answers and all that. Now design the questionnaire with analysis mind. Questionnaire and objectives are to be balanced. It's very, very important. That's what in the beginning I told you. What is objectives and questionnaire? Both are to be balanced. There is a link between these two. So your objectives you have to accomplish. At the end of the day, you have to accomplish the objectives. How do you accomplish? On the basis of questionnaire only, because you are getting data from the questionnaire with the help of questionnaire. So that data has to answer the objectives. Answer has to respond to the objectives. So that is why on the basis of objectives only the questionnaire has to be prepared. So that is one important area. And so that is why there should be a balance between questionnaire and objectives. it should be, when you are framing the questionnaire, the objective should be taken into consideration, and the variables, parameters that you are incorporating the objectives, that also should be taken into consideration. And on the basis of that, you need to design the questions and all that. Now, questionnaire must be applied to motivate and encourage the response. That's what I told you. We should, the motivation. When the questionnaire seen by the respondents or the target people, they should be motivated. Yes, I have to give answers to this. This is very important. Like that, they have to feel. Like in such a fashion, you are supposed to, as an investigator, you're supposed to prepare the questionnaire. It should be minimized response error. So the error must be minimized. Error must be, that's what I told you. Error, when can you minimize the error? Means the ambiguity is there. Say, for example, confusions are there in the questions for giving answer. Then naturally, they will simply skip the questions. If they simply skip the questions, all the response will not give. For example, there are 100 respondents are there. Only 80 respondents are responded for a particular question. Remaining 20 not responded. Then what does it mean? Everybody has to respond. It's not that some people only. So that margin of error and all that will huge amount of errors takes place. Then the analysis will not be correct. Then if the analysis is not correct, your suggestions are not correct, your decisions are not correct. On the basis of analysis, will give suggestions that also will not be correct. So those are all things that happens. Consideration for research in continuation. Define the terminologies. That's very important. Length of questionnaire, the words of the questionnaire. 3 to 5. Now scale I told you now earlier. 3 point, 5 point, or 7 point Likert scale, very helpful. You can take 3 point or 5 point, or maximum means at the most 7 point scale. You can mention helpful, and neither helpful nor unhelpful. Unhelpful, very helpful, like that. You have to take the questions order like this, alternate orders, like very helpful, helpful, neither helpful nor unhelpful, unhelpful, very unhelpful. These are the, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like this is the arrangement. You have to make the alternatives, so that the order is like that. First, very helpful. Next, neither helpful nor unhelpful. Next, unhelpful, very unhelpful. So like that, you have to arrange, and accordingly they will choose one of it, and they will give you, they will tick it, and that will be that on the basis of that analysis part will take. Strongly agree. Say for example, another example. Strongly agree for a question is given. For that question, whether they agree strongly or disagree, agree, strongly agree, slightly agree, neutral, means they don't want to answer it. They are keeping quiet. Say for example, neutral, they don't say either yes or no. So they are neutral. And disagree, strongly disagree, very strongly disagree. These are all the alternatives. So whichever is interested to the respondent, that he will take it, and accordingly all the respondents sample, once they respond, then on the basis of that the analysis part will take place and all that. So 5 point scale of if use, result would be fine. So that's what I told you. Optimum is, the 5 point scale. If you take, that will be good for analysis and results and all that. Next, developing, how to develop a questionnaire. Once you construct the variables and the parameters, once you identify, you have to develop it to frame the to incorporate in the questions effectively. So that is why identify the conceptualization, definition. That's what I told you. Books, Google Scholar, Mendeley, all these things you have to search. I already explained you. Already mentioned you. Clear, concise, and direct is also. I have mentioned problem, need to be addressed. Problem, what is the problem? According to the problem only, the question has to be addressed all the time. About the problem, it has to be addressed. Meant by the concepts you have to go through as an investigator, researcher, and you have the review of, for that review of literature. Abundant review of literature is available nowadays on online. So you need to check it for better understanding. As an investigator, first investigator should have a better understanding. Otherwise, he cannot frame the questions and questionnaire. So the terms, key terms, also very important. That is why definition. That is why I told you independent variable, dependent variables. When you choose, you should know, the investigator should know what is the what are the definitions, the key points, what are the description of those variables, parameters. That investigator should have a specific knowledge first of all before go for investigations. That is one important thing. Next, you have identify variables, go through concepts, definitions, talk to an expert, right? Draft statements for each term, characteristics identified, removal of duplications. Any duplications are there, you have to remove it. So like that, you have to talk to an expert. That already we covered. Expert, and you have to take the information data from the experts also, and how to prepare an effective questionnaire and all that. On the basis of their suggestions and all that, also you can improve your questionnaire, you can develop your questionnaire and all that. Okay. Next, you have developing a question in continuation. The questionnaire should be given, should begin with the most important one. That's what I told you. Most important questions first should be covered. Otherwise, what happens, when the most important questions, if you keep it at the end of the questionnaire, by the time the respondent come to the end of the questionnaire, what happens there, he will be vexed and he will say that he will not show interest. So that is why important questions should be asked. Important first, and at the same time motivation, they have to be motivated also. Motivated questions and important questions related to the subject, that should be asked, so that by the time they come to the ending of the questionnaire, they will not be discouraged, they will not feel any the time waste and all that, right? That is very important. Only one question is to be asked at a time. It's not 2 questions, 3 questions at a time. If you post, they will not give you correct answers for any question. So that is why some very important point that the investigator is, he has to restrain himself and he has to ask patiently the questions. Then he can extract the answers from the respondents or the beneficiaries or from the targeted people. Proper care related private sensitive information, I have already told you about the sensitive information should not be incorporated in the questions, because they will not give you the answers. If they don't give the answers, some of the questions are not answered. Say for example, majority of the respondents not answered majority of the questions. Then what does it mean? What is the meaning of that questionnaire? Is it a quality one? It's a good one? It's not a good one. If majority of questions are not asked, not responded by the respondents or the beneficiaries or target people, then it will not be a good questionnaire. So that is why you need to understand the targeted people, their minds and their their characteristics. You have to understand accordingly. You are supposed to design it or develop it. I'm satisfied. This, for example, here, avoid multiple questions in a single statement. That's what I mentioned previously. I am satisfied with the pay and commission. This is the question you have posed. I am satisfied with the pay and commission means some people will be satisfied with the pay, but they are not satisfied with the commission. Then if you say, then what answer he has to give? Whether he has to say yes or no. For one, first part he is yes, sir. Second part he is not willing. Then what he will do is, his answer is not there, it is not incorporated, and both the questions, this is called a double barrel question. So this what the respondent will do is, he will completely leave it, he will not answer it. The question he will completely leave it, he will not answer. So such type of two statements should not be, two questions should not be incorporated in one statement. That is very, very important. It is harmful to the questionnaire. Do not incorporate biased questions. It should not be biased. It should not be biased. It's very important. You should be clear cut opinion should be given, and it should not be biased. That's very, very important. And do not incorporate the answers to not include such I don't know, not applicable to me, will become a missing data, and while analysis will create a problem. So that is why this type of the word should not be incorporated the question. I don't know. If they don't know, if you incorporate that alternative as an I don't know, not applicable, then how do you expect the good question? The questionnaire will become a good. The analysis part, how it will the analysis part will take good analysis, how it will become. So it's very difficult. So that is why such type of the wording terminology should not be incorporated in the question. It's very dangerous. Now, as short as possible, since the respondents prefer the answers a shorter questionnaire. Usually, that's what I told you. I mentioned you questionnaire. The people, the respondents, shorter questionnaire only they prefer to answer, because they don't want to spend much time with you. A long time you are giving answer, go on give. If you pose the question, they will give answer like that. How many questions? Some 40-50 questions. If you want to pose them on the with them or before them, will they answer? They will get tiredness and all that. No, I don't want these many questions are enough, like that they may say. So that is why it should be concise, and every question should be motivated, interesting to them. It should have to create interest in the minds of the respondents, in the minds of the targeted people. In such a fashion, you are supposed to develop the question. That's very, very important. Next, you have a pilot study. That's what I told you. This also I told. A pilot study has to be conducted. First, you prepare the draft questionnaire. Take the draft questionnaire to the respondents, the beneficiaries, the target people. You test with them. If you test with them, they will give some suggestions. It's not like that. The real ground realities are like this. You have framed the question like this, or you have your idea is like this, but it's not like that. The ground realities are like this. Like that, the people, respondents will give information to the researcher, to the investigator. That is most important. So that is why you are not supposed to finalize the questionnaire at a time. First, you prepare the questionnaire with the consultation of experts and with the consultation of going through the literature, concepts and variables and the parameters, all those things you discuss it, go through thoroughly and consult the people. You prepare a draft question. Once it is prepared, you have to take to the grassroots. They are the real people, beneficiaries, targeted people. You take to them and get the information from them and saturate the questions. Then that will be the efficient questionnaire, effective questionnaire, which is very much useful for giving an appropriate solution to the problem. Sorry, appropriate solution to the problem. That is very important. Next, you have developing a questionnaire. In continuation to that, as I mentioned, Likert scale measure how strongly a person agrees or disagrees with the statement. Say, for example, one example also in the previous lab, so I told you, with a 4-point Likert scale in which the response categories range from strongly agree to strongly disagree. I am happy with my present job. Standard Likert scale would code the responses as strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. So like that, if you frame the questions, what happens, it will be interesting and the respondents will easily respond to your questions. Sorry, 1 minute. And you have types of questionnaire. This is the most important area. Types of questionnaire construction. What are the types of questions? I told you open-ended, closed-ended, that will come now. Researcher to know about the research variables involved in analysis. That's what I told you, already mentioned. Analysis variables are very important. You have to identify the correct variables and all that. Self-administered interviewer administer the questionnaire. So the in-person, the investigator can approach the respondents and interview and take the answers, obtain the data from them directly, or indirectly questionnaire can be posted, as I mentioned, courier, and can get the information data from the through post, you can get it, whatever it is. But here, when you talk about types of questions, open-ended, unstructured, descriptive. So what is this? Not open-ended means not predetermined. It's not planned. Planned question. These are not planned. The investigator will approach directly, and whatever is there, immediately he will pose the questions. It is not planned. Planned questions will not be there in his mind. Just like that, he will go. He will ask the questions, and the beneficiaries or the respondents also will answer. Just like that. Just like that means they whatever is there in their mind, actual facts, that they will inform. They will immediately tell. And if a question is not appropriate by the investigator, that also will be corrected by the respondent. That is also there. So these are all open-minded. Means you are giving free to the respondent to give idea, to give information related to your question. That is very important. Unexpected suggestions you can expect from them. It is difficult to, of course, it may be difficult. All opinions, when you get it, it may be difficult to tabulate, but that will be very much helpful. That will be very much helpful in framing the analysis, in interpreting, or in giving suggestions or conclusions. That will be their information, oral informations are very, very important. Right? Now, next you have closed restricted questions. Closed restricted means a set of questions that you only as an investigator will prepare, and you will stick to that, and you will insist the respondents also to stick to those questions and alternatives. Whatever questions you framed, and you will ask them, and you will get the answers from them for those questions only. It is restricted. That means you are not giving freeness to them to share their original ideas and all that. Means it is a planned questionnaire. It is a planned, structured questionnaire. That is what we call structured, pre-planned. So you will reach the respondents and get the information. So that is why it is called as numerical. Closed is numerical, That's what I told you in the beginning also. Numerical is closed. Numerical closed is related to numerical information that you get it, and open-ended means unstructured means it is descriptive. A paragraph they will write. A paragraph with this much of information they will more or less say. It's not one word or two words, the responses under open-ended. And closed-ended means it is a restricted word restriction will be there, and your restricted planned questionnaire will be there, and the alternatives will be there. Accordingly, you will get the information. And you have under this closed restricted, easy statistical calculation, easy preliminary analysis can be asked in different groups in different types. That will happen because it is structured and planned. Next, you have types of questionnaire and construction in continuation. Semi-structured questions. Another one is semi-structured questionnaire. Different types of questions that I am talking about. Semi-structured questions are mixed questions or partially structured questions. You can call it as. Example, you can understand in a better way if I give you the example. What aims you to use internet sources? That is the question. Say, for example, assignments for assignments purpose, for projects purpose, or enhancement of subject knowledge, or for reference purpose for any other issue. If you want to know more about it, then for reference purposes you can go through the internet sources and all that. So if any, so here the options will be given like this: assignments purpose, projects, enhancement of subject knowledge, references. Not only that, if any state the reasons 1, 2, 3. Other than these, other than the above reasons, if any other reasons, you can state 1, 2, 3 like that. So that means what will happen? The respondent will give, other than those also, the respondent will give his own idea. If anything is there in his mind, that also he will write there. This is called semi-structured. Mixed questions. Mixed questions in the sense, one answer in the options he will tick it, and other than that, if anything is there in his mind, that also he can write. This is what we call semi-structured and mixed questions. And Madam, in the beginning, she talked about the mixed questions and all that. We'd like to know from you like that, Madam. In the beginning, she addressed. So that's what closed form of questionnaire. Closed form of questions means it is, say for example, under that dichotomous questions. Two responses such as yes, no, male, female. Say for example, under dichotomous questions, the character is either yes or no. That question response is either yes or no, or otherwise, say for example, gender. If I ask if male or female. So this is called under the type of dichotomous. And you have the, do you like the product of Tata? Yes or no. You have to say either yes or no. No other description. Yes or no. This will come under dichotomous. Similarly, please enter your gender, male or female. That's what I told you. Yoga promotes the quality of life. Agree, disagree. You have to either agree or disagree. You have to take it. So these are the types of questions. Example, just I mentioned because for better understanding. That is only my opinion. Because once you talk about the questionnaire, you should understand perfectly. That's why I have given some examples for better understanding. Now this is one thing. Next, you have the types of questionnaire and construction in continuation. Next category is multiple choice questions. You know, all of you might be knowing about more than 2. Some multiple choice question and multiple choice will be given 4 or 5, and any one of those multiple choice one answer has to be chosen and should give as an answer by the respondent, by the beneficiary, or by the target people. Say for example, what is your qualification? 10th class, intermediate, degree, PG, PhD. If you are PhD, you can take PhD. If you are PG, you can take PG. According to their education background, they will choose the relevant one. So that's about the multiple choice questions and all that. Next, cafeteria questions. Respondents under that, what is this? Respondents to select most closely to their view. There are many responses will be there, but most closely to his view, to the respondent's view, that will be selected. Which is most closely to me is not close to you. It may be different. It may be different naturally. So most closely, what is to my mind is there for the given question, that I will take it. I will put an answer like that. That is what we call cafeteria questions. Rank order questions. Rank their responses from most favorable to least favorable. Most favorable to least favorable type of questions will come under ranking. We all of us know. Ranking will be given. Priorities will be given. That will be called as a rank order questions. So these are all different types of questions. You have to choose what type of questions, how you have to frame it, the prioritization or the characteristic of the that all depends upon the, that's what I told you, variables, parameters are very important, are playing a key role in framing the questions. Which type of question you have to select, whether it is a ranking question or whether it is a contingency question, cafeteria question, multiple choice question, what type of question you have to choose on the basis of the variable that you have chosen, parameters that you have chosen, and the objectives. What are the objectives that you have framed? On the basis of that, you are supposed to frame it, construct it. And example, contingency questions are there, say for example. And contingency question in continuation with the previous section, here some examples are given. Do you smoke? If yes, how many times? Yes, no. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, or more than 4. So yes, no, first he will take it. If it is yes, he will take yes. If yes, how many times? How many times you have to take? If no, no, you have to take, and the remaining will not be applicable. And do we have soft skills? If yes, how long? These are all contingency questions. One question depends on others. Other question depend on other questions. Do you have soft skills? If yes, how long? 1 year, 2 year? If yes or no first, and then if it is 1 year, if yes, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, that you have to choose it. Next, you have types of questions in continuation. Likert questions. Likert questions means, here I told you, I mentioned already. See, for example, if I tell you, can all of us can better understand. Yoga promotes the quality of life. That's what I told you. Strongly agreed. Agreed. Neither agree nor disagree. Disagree. Strongly disagree. Here I have given you SA. Strongly agree. A. Agree. UD. UD means, what is UD given here? UD is undecided. D means disagree. In the bottom of the question, I have given the description of the SA, A, UD, D, and SD. Disagree. So you have to alcohol injurious to health. Different questions will be there. Here, different options will be there. You have to choose whether it is a strongly agree, or undecided for each and everything. You have to tick. So these questions will come under Likert questions, right? So this is one important, the framing of questions. Next, you have the another important kind of question is that bipolar questions. Two extreme answers, two opposite ends of scale. For example, efficient, quite opposite inefficient. Like this, if you two bipolar questions means like this, it will be there. So such type of question, whether it is related to your topic, is it necessary to give, that you have to think as an investigator researcher. If it is necessary, such questions are there framed, then you have to give these bipolar questions also. So that means the investigator or the researcher should take into consideration what type of questions are suited or related to your topic. That you have to choose first. And accordingly, you have to frame the questions. Bipolar questions or contingency questions, whether we have to ask or not. Or, the Likert questions, or otherwise multiple choice questions, contingency questions. What questions you have to give for what information, that you have to be clear as an investigator researcher. That's most important. Next, matrix questions. It includes multiple questions, identical categories. Multiple questions and identical categories, many categories will be there. That type of questions will come under matrix. Ensure sequence and logical arrangement. Sequence and logical arrangement is very important. Once you prepare the set of questions, which question has to be given first, which question in the middle, I told you already, I mentioned. So opening questions, courtesy and interest of the respondents on the topic. Early questions, simple, friendly, close-ended, easy to respond. These questions are to be arranged in the early questions, in the early questions part. Next, middle questions is supposed to be ask the target questions. What is the target? What is the problem? On that problem, I told you now, I mentioned that impact question, impact on particular aspect, perception of the particular aspect, these things. Next, you have the logical order you have to arrange. We already discussed it. Independent form of questions, dependent form of questions, that you have to make a systematic manner. Questions to run from general to specific. First, that's what I told you. General questions, first you start with the general questions and then more specific questions. Then it will be motivated. The respondent will be motivated. That is very, very important. You have to create, as a researcher, investigator, you have to create a motivation among the respondents. For that, general question, you start with the general questions and later specific question or specific to the problem. Then you have to pose the questions or arrange it. questions to run from least to more sensitive. When you are using a sensitive aspects or incorporating the question, you should be very careful first of all. Because if they don't answer, it will be a problem for the researcher or the investigator. That is why you should be very careful about it. Review the question. Once you prepare all the questionnaire, then you have to review it. Design or framing construction is over, then you have to review it first. Review, and what review? Variables you review, whether it's correct or not, parameters you review, and you have the other things, the construction and the characteristics of a good question. All those things you have to just go through it, and if any additions, deletions, to make it. That is what we call review. In the sense, questionnaire does it operationally define. Operationally, whether it is defined or not, that you have to check it. Operational defined means whether it is executable, administered, is it correct in according to the problem or not, executable. That the investigator, you have to review all the questions, not one question, two questions, all the questions should be reviewed. That is one thing. Whether questionnaire follow developing guidelines or not, development of guidelines, as per the guidelines, whether it is prepared or not, that has to be reviewed by the investigator. Variables reviewed from the quality journal. From different quality journals are the Scopus, WebEx, like that, UGC careless journals are there. Related to your problem, then many articles are available nowadays in the online. So you can check all those articles for getting good idea about your variables, getting good idea about knowledge about your parameters, hypothetical issues, objective issues. All these things you can, if you can thoroughly go through the literature, then you will get an idea. That idea will push you ahead for conducting good research. That questionnaire will help you for taking better decisions. Finally, that is very important. Reliability, consistency. A consistency must be there. Reliability must be there in the questionnaire. These are all very simple. The investigator first preliminary basic knowledge, the reliability and consistency, validity, these are to be established. If you don't establish, if the objectives are different, and the consistency, if you not maintain the consistency, reliability is not maintained, then what happens? It will be a problem. Analysis will not be a problem. Analysis will be a problem, and you cannot give appropriate justice to the problem. That is very important. Pilot study conducted with the questionnaire. I already mentioned, pilot study is very, very important. You should not finalize on your own. Take the opinions from the experts, and after completion, after getting information from the experts and all that, incorporate them, and finally you have to test it with, that's what I mentioned, you have to test it with the beneficiaries, whether those questions are relevant or not to the problem, because they only can tell you, because they are beneficiaries now. They are at the grassroots level. They are the experiencing people. So they don't they know it, and they will, if any irrelevant is that, they will tell you, no, it's not like that, sir, it is like this. They will inform you, and accordingly you can make changes. And finally, you prepare a draft of question. You prepare a questionnaire. Draft questionnaire you take to them, and you finalize with them by asking the same questions. Then finally you conduct the test. You conduct the you administer the questionnaire. That is what is very important. And system of administering questionnaire by post, by phone, right? And by phone, say by post, less expensive, very less expensive by post, if you send. Not necessary for manual deployment. You cannot, there is no need to send your own people to get the data from the far behind, far distance places, in far distance. For example, you are in Madhya Pradesh, and the respondents are in somewhere other states, say, for example. In that case, what you have to do when you are conducting a study between comparative study of two states, so you need to send your agents to that particular state, respective state. So instead of sending them, you can send it by post and get the information from them. So it's a manual deployment is not necessary. Next, by phone, immediate effect. You can telephone them and ask them to give their responses to your questions and all that by phone. Immediate effect will be there for that. Personal touch with the respondent. You can directly meet, and if you have personal touch with the respondents, then if you just talk to them, they will send the information. Then they go through the questionnaire, and they will immediately fill up it and send it. So high response rate. High response rate will improve when you telephone. Response rate will improve. If you just send it and ask them in mail only and ask them or in telephone, if you in mail, if you ask them, you just fill up it and send it, then nobody will, some people will not respond, unless the people you know, they will respond, but the people who doesn't know, they will not respond. So in that case, what you have, if you telephone them, because you personally ask them, they will immediately respond it. That is the difference. So electronic mode, less expensive, speed in communication. Nowadays, you can get without taking much time, you can get the information from the respondents because of this ICT, information communication technology, using the edge for us for getting the information from them, from the respondents in by person. Questions posed in detail, rate high response. If you go directly to them, and it is more better. You will have a personal touch with them, and we can interview them personally. We can ask them. We can get their personal experiences also. We can see them. We can see their faces, and we can get the information, first-hand information. We can get it. All these things will be there. Mistakes generally, when you frame we are coming to the ending. Please bear with me for another few minutes. So when mistakes are commonly made, usually when you prepare the questionnaire, what mistakes will be made means failure to relate with the objective. Objectives, they will not, if you don't relate with the objectives, then what is the meaning of what purpose you are preparing the question? If you don't take into consideration the objectives, variables and objectives, how you have prepared the objective is nothing but aim or goal of your the research work. If you have to take into consideration when you're, that's what I told you. In the info, while you're preparing questionnaire, you need to take into account about the objectives into consideration, right? And the variables related to that, to those objectives, parameters related to those objectives, you have to take into consideration. Then only you can prepare but here the point is, the problem is commonly some mistakes will be made. Objectives differs with the questions. If it happened, then what happens? It will not be a correct question, and you cannot get information correctly. That is one thing. Check questionnaire with grammatical mistakes. These are all very simple. Grammatical mistakes always, because the people cannot understand sometimes. If you grammatically made so many mistakes in the statements or questions, then how the people will understand? A question will be give different meaning if grammatical mistakes are there. So that is why grammatical mistakes are to be checked once the draft is prepared with a English experts, English knowing people, English subject people will be there. So faculty, you have to consult them, and grammatically you have to make it corrections and all that. And finally, because the once the respondent go through the question, he should not get different, the intention or opinion on that. What is the purpose of posing that question? That they have to, it should be clearly addressed. Otherwise, it will be difficult. Selecting scale before the operationalization. What is the scale? 5, 4, 4, 3, 4, 3 scale or 2 scale or 5 scale, 7 scale? What scale that you have to design on the basis of the question, on the basis of question, and the importance of the question. Inaccuracy question should not be there. Relevance, if relevance must be there, inaccuracy should not be there, ambiguity should not be there in framing the questions. Respondents fail to understand. Naturally, they fail to understand if you don't correctly ask the question. If any ambiguity, they fail to understand. If they fail to understand, what is the problem? Problem is they will not answer. If they don't answer, your questions, your analysis, everything will be waste, and you cannot frame the decisions. That is very important. So these things happens usually. That's why I have listed all these things just for giving idea. Failure to record accurately or completely. Next, using wrong Likert scale. It's very this thing. So Likert scale, whatever optimum Likert scale is there, that what I told you in the previous slides, that has to be applied so that it will be correct analysis. It will become correct analysis. Lack of checking originality with copying questions from thesis. If you copy questions from the other thesis and all that, you have to check the reliability and originality with your problem. Your problem is different, and the questions that you have copied from other thesis or from somewhere, it will be. So when you can take it, and but you have to reframe it according to your problem. You have to redesign it, and the suitability you have to check. That is one thing. Prepare on your own, and you have statement responses must be appropriate. That is all will happen. Methods of sampling. Now another 2 slides only. Bear with me. Another 2 slides. Methods of sampling. This is last and 2 slides only. Because when the questionnaire is prepared, and finally the questionnaire has to be administered for a specified sample. Sample means, sample is a selection of, small portion of from total population. Total population will be there, and out of total population, we cannot take into account for collecting data. Out of total population, a sample only, some group of people only we can take, because that is called what we call sample. So types means under the probability sampling, non-probability sampling will be there. Probability sampling, random selection, random selection without pre-plan. Teacher, say for example, teacher asking questions students randomly. Teacher enter into the classroom. She doesn't know to whom she has to ask. Randomly, some X, Y, Z, she asks a question. So this is a probability sampling. Under that, those questions will come under probability sampling. Similarly, you have simple random sampling. Under that, lottery method, lucky draw method can be applied. And you have the stratified random sampling. Under that, the example, dividing subgroups from available people and selecting group from those groups, age-wise, religion-wise, you have to divide like that. And you have systematic random sampling. Another important type of sampling is systematic. What is that? Out of 100 people, selecting 10 people. Then select every 10th person. You have to select 10 people. But how to select? For example, there are 100 people. 100 by 10. 10 people only you have to select. 100 by 10 means 10. Then means how 10 people, 10th one, 20th one, 30th one, 40th one, 50th one, like that. 100th one. Then what happens? All put together 10 people will do. This is what we call systematic random sampling. And you have methods of the continuation. Cluster multi-stage sampling. What is this cluster multi-stage sampling? Under that example, if I give you, you can understand in a better way. Divide the area into different parts. State to, district to, mandals to, village. From village, sample people. People have to be identified to whom you have to take. This is called multi-stage sampling. Multi-stage sampling, for example, state of one state you have to take. Entire state, we cannot get the information. We cannot collect the data. Then you come to the district, one of the districts of the state. In that district, total districts also, it is very difficult to obtain the data, because it takes a lot of time. Years together, if it takes, what is the use of the conducting of study? So it is difficult. It will take a lot of time. So that is why under district again, you come to the mandals. Mandals also, many mandals will be there. It is not possible to take all the mandals. So some mandals you choose, and you go to those mandals, and the villages you have to choose from mandals. In villages, whoever is the experiencing people or beneficiaries of that particular problem, experiencing of that problem, those you take them randomly, and finally you conclude finally you decide the sample. That is very important. These are all. Next, non-probability sampling and non-random sampling. Under that, non-probability or non-random sampling, you can call it as. Sample is selected by choice, not chance. It is planned. It is planned. Non-probability is planned. Convenience sampling. What does it mean? Easily availability of the sampling wherever people available. For example, you want to take certain information, but to whom you have to meet? People where available, where it is available means it's a convenience sampling you are undertaking. Then you can go to the parks in the evening time or in the morning times. You can get the information from them, general people information. You can get it. So that is what we call conveniencing. Conveniencing means either in the morning or evening, whoever is free, available in the parks and other public areas. For the usual people will come for walking in the morning and evening timings in the parks. So you can get convenience sampling. You can get the opinions of for your problem from them. That is one thing. Next, we have purposive sampling. What does it mean? Select the people as a sample, whoever is having a particular habit. For example, smoker, lung cancer. So this is very difficult. Who are the smokers and who got the having this lung cancer and all that? First, you have to identify the smokers, and then how many of these smokers, the lung cancer patients are there, that you have to identify. So here, that's what I told in the beginning. When I talk about smokers and lung cancers, smoking is a independent variable, and lung cancer is independent variable. Independent variable is an impact. Impact happens on the basis of the dependent variable, which is smoking. If there is no smoking, there is no question of lung cancers. So it affects, lung cancer affects on the basis of the smoking. That is why it is independent and dependent variables. I told you in the beginning. Next, quota sampling. A particular set of people, male quota, female quota, like that. Snowball sampling, last and final. The nature of this sample is more difficult to get. not easily available. Say for example, people with habits, drugs, some people they are habituated with them, but how to find out them, how to identify them? So that is why one person you identify first, then with the help of that person you can identify another person. That person will tell who is the other person, right? Like that. So you ask the information of the other person and you consult the other second person, and second person will tell about his friend who is addicted with the drug and all that. Like that, you can contact the people whoever is affected, the drug addicted and all that. So drug addicted people cannot find all the people at a time. One person you have to identify. So this is what we call comes under snowball sampling, right? These are all the sampling. Of course, sampling, when you talk about starting to talk about the sampling, it takes a minimum 2 hours, 3 hours. I can talk, but the time is the main problem. Already it is. I think it is 3 o'clock. Many participants are maybe getting bored and all that. I don't know. So I am cut shorting all these things because the time factor. And another platform, definitely I will explain about the sampling, different sampling methods, what type of tools you have to use and all that. It's a big subject, and each and every component I talk minimum 2 to 3 hours we can talk. So that is the time constraints are there. That is why. So this is about the presentation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, especially for the Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, and Madam Akanksha Madam, and Dean Faculty Madam, and all other organizers for giving me the good opportunity. Thank you very much. If any questions, you are most welcome. Kindly post the questions to my knowledge, whatever my knowledge applies to the extent of my, definitely I will answer. Please raise the questions if you have anything, if any questions. Thank you very much once again to all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so very much, sir. The session was indeed very informative and very deep. So I'll request the participants to please post their questions on the chat box if they have any questions. Till then, I have noted 2 questions that were asked by the participants.
Yes,
So
please.
I'm just giving that question. So the first question is that do we need to prepare a questionnaire for preparing any research proposal?
For research proposal, questionnaire is not required. Question is not required. You have to prepare the proposal consisting of the abstract and the statement of the problem and the few review of literatures and the hypothesis, and this is a format is there. For that there is no need to prepare. The questionnaire is a later part, not in the beginning.
Okay, sir. And one question is, sir, like they want to ask, can we have a neutral option when we are talking about the scales?
Which one, madam? Sorry.
Neutral option in any scale. Can we have the neutral option? Neutral.
Usually, as I mentioned, the Likert scale, it all depends upon the questions, the kind of questions. Some questions, I have given you a number of types of questions and all that. So your information, what type of information that you have to obtain from the respondents, that you have to be clear. On the basis of that, the question has to be decided, whether it's bipolar or contingency or Likert scale method, Likert scale type of questions, that all what type of question, contingency question, what type of questions is suitable for your problem, for your question. You have to, the investigator has to identify, and accordingly he has to frame the question, because it is different from one aspect to another aspect. Questionnaire framing the questionnaire is different because you have to follow certain guidelines, as I mentioned, different types of questions and all that. So accordingly you have to follow on the basis of your on the basis of information that you want to acquire from the data acquired from the respondents. That is what.
Okay, sir. There is one question that in this pandemic, should we go for open-ended questionnaire as we want to research on the financial literacy of senior citizens? So
Yes,
should
please.
open-ended or closed-ended?
You can go either, you have to prepare a first structured question you prepare. My advice is a structured question that investigator has to prepare it first. And you go there and ask the structured question only. But more than that, the structured question, you can directly interact with the respondents. And during the interaction, before administering the questionnaire, you interact with the investigator, let the investigator interact with the respondent. And the respondents will give so many information. After receiving all that information, then you administer the questionnaire. For that also you get the information. So here open-ended information, when you get obtained from the respondent, that will be helpful. That will be helpful for the for analysis purpose, or for incorporating in the suggestion areas, the suggestion part, or in the conclusion part, that will be very important. That is most important. It's not that it's not, it's very important. In addition to the questions, set of questions framed in the questionnaire, in addition to that, their own experience. Sometimes, they give so much of information. The respondents will give so much of information which is not asked with the questionnaire. So other than the questionnaire, also information will give the respondents. So that also researcher, investigator has to take, because their experiences they are telling. When they are telling the experiences, you as an investigator, it is very much useful. We have to take it. But you take the structured questionnaire to the respondents and you collect the information, but you receive the personal experiences also. Other than this question, other than the structured question, you personal information, if they want to give, you just welcome them. You carry a notebook and you note them, all their experiences. Other than this question, if at all anything their experiences, if they say, you note it down. That will be more helpful, because first-hand information, that is more helpful in analysis part, to incorporate in analysis part, to incorporate in the suggestions part, to incorporate in the conclusion part. It's very, very useful. So I suggest that you get the informations both, either unstructured, structured, both information, personal experiences, and their own personal information. All those things, if any personal experience they tell, the researcher have to take it, and accordingly he has to incorporate in his thesis or in his dissertation or in his the study reports. He can incorporate like that.
So there is one more question that somebody has asked, that they have framed a questionnaire based on their hypothesis and sub-hypothesis, and the questions in their questionnaire, they number up to 100. So how can they reduce their number
Which
of
one?
questions?
Which one? Kindly, please, sorry.
They have a questionnaire of 100 questions. So they want to reduce the number of the questions. So what should they do?
Yeah, that's what I told you. You have to reduce the question. 100 questions means who will answer? It's a very big, it's very, it's very difficult. Nobody will answer your 100 questions. So that is why, while you are framing the questionnaire, you have to stick to the problem. What is the problem? What is the problem that you need to investigate? So that problem, first of all, you have to identify and you stick to the problem. That is one thing. Secondly, when you frame the objectives, you are framing the objectives and you stick to the objectives. The questions should be stick to the objectives, and the questions should be stick to the hypothesis, whatever hypothesis that you are framing, predictions, your imaginations, what you are thinking about. So for that, related to that, variables, what are the variables you want to choose, you have chosen? What are the parameters that you have chosen? These are all the aspects that you need to take into consideration and framing the questions. Then automatically what happens, it will be precise, it will be concise. Briefly, that automatically unrelated questions, what are the unrelated questions, automatically you will come to know. If these things if you keep in your mind, what are those things you have to keep in mind? One is problem, another one is objective orientation, another one is hypothesis, and the variables and parameters. If these things are kept in mind, and if you frame the questions related to that, to these elements, automatically unrelated questions, so you can easily identify and you will delete it.
Okay, then thank you very much, sir. I think with this we are ending the question answer session.
Yeah,
and I'll request our Dean ma'am to present the thanks for your session, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Srinivasan Rao. Thank you for a very elaborate and exhaustive presentation. And I'm sure that most of the doubts in our researchers and faculty must have been cleared by now. I can very well understand from the type of the questions raised in our question answer session that still we have to take a holistic view of having a questionnaire. Why do we want to have a questionnaire? how can we implement it, how can we construct it. And you rightly have emphasized, questionnaire cannot be seen as an alone entity. It has to be in tandem with the research proposal, with the research problem that needs to be investigated, with the objectives of the research, with it has to be in alignment with the research questions or research hypothesis. Then only we can get to frame a questionnaire which is valid also, and which is reliable also. Many of the doubts have been cleared by you, and you have given us an in-depth idea why questionnaires should be taken, why are they easiest ways of collecting the data, why is the data seen in actionable times, why we can visualize the data which we receive it, and so far and so on. Even though there is a debate going on that qualitative research is it provides us insight into the research problem and the research area, but there are differences when it comes to quantitative research. But your engagement with our participants and with the faculty has shown us that questionnaires, if they are properly structured, if they are properly aligned, if they are properly in tandem with the research topic, problem, research questions, they can serve the purpose as well in terms of investigating the problem, try to find the solution of the problem that the researcher has taken up. I thank you for your wonderful session, for your wonderful engagement with our research scholars, with our faculty members. I'm sure that whatever the doubts in the minds of the participants have been cleared to a very great extent. And I once again thank you for your presentation. And I'm being told that Professor Malyadri Pathak is here. Is Akanksha ma'am, Professor Malyadri with us?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sir is there.
Sir, I just wanted to thank you for your presentation yesterday. I could not be here because I had some personal engagements and I missed that. But whatever the feedback I have received from our faculty members and from our research scholars, so they were literally appreciative, and it was like the verbatim feedback. If I express it to you, they said it was like the ABCD. Sir taught us how to use citations, how to publish, in which journals to publish, and how to go about it, how to go about publications. So publications, a part which is not very well taken up in the educational institution, you have tried to fill in that gap, and the feedback of the participants was overwhelmingly positive, and I thank you for being there with us and enriching us with your knowledge and wisdom. So today also you have joined the session. It is appreciative, and it is I just again thank you for that. So I think with that I hand it over to Dr. Akanksha. Thanks a lot to all the participants and the resource persons for sparing their time and being with us in the session.
Thank you very much, madam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Malyadri.
Yes, sir. I missed your yesterday's session.
In fact, I also missed your wonderful analysis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks. It will be a pleasure meeting both of you in person. Maybe once this pandemic is over, we'll get back to you and request your presence in the campus. Sharda is a vibrant campus.
Thanks a lot, madam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Very nice words, kind words about me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks a lot, Srinivasan sir, for such a wonderful session. And we are really privileged to have Malyadri sir once again with us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today again. And with that, we come to the end of our session. To the participants, I'll be informing you about the session to due tomorrow through your mail. Just one request, that tomorrow we might request all of you to have your video switch on for some time, as we'll be taking a few screenshots, live screenshots with all of you. So I'll request for tomorrow that we'll have a small session for your videos on also. So thank you very much. That's all for today. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Malayadri sir also, and all the organizers, Vice Chancellor, Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellors, all the team of the organizers. I'm very much thankful to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.